that clock's off.
You got a minute after.
I got 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock now.
Okay, all right.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, accept the motion to accept the consent agenda.
I would so move.
I would second.
Moved in second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We got about a minute left before we close this, go to notice. Public hearing during the city council meeting. Ready?
Report. I have nothing to report.
Can't get much quicker than that, right, chief?
They're normal.
Everything's normal.
Do you have anything to report there?
For me? Everything's good.
I check all this off.
Check it all. Is it time? It was? That was it? Not yet? Jeez. We wanted to go fast and go slow.
Okay.
Now, we'll close our regular meeting and go into the special meeting. Okay, subject to consider the rural city 6-year transportation program as required by RCW 35.77.010. Purpose to receive public input, location, please send all that, date to today, this time 6:02 p.m. Michelle.
And we take public comment on our 6-year transportation improvement plan. So this is something that we do every year. And this is for basically our want list or any grants that we may already have that we know of, we would have on this list. And so we just, the public works director comes up with these are 6 or 8 projects that have been ongoing and on our list for several years now. And we keep adding them back on there because we feel that they're important. So we're just here to take public comment if there is any comment on our improvement plan. And then what happens with this after council approves it, it does go to the state, our local regional transportation planning organization, the county, and they take into consideration all of the projects statewide when they start divvying out money. So, is there any comment?
I have a question. So 1 and 2 are improvements to 505. I was trying to understand, is that the main walk in downtown?
Yes.
And when we're working on that, are we going to have an opportunity to address the signage at the crosswalks? It's kind of not very safe. So I guess will this come up again so that we'll be able to.
The signage on 505 is actually, it's state. And so if you have some concern, we could contact the state with those concerns, but it is up to them on signage.
Okay.
Right, Mike?
Yeah. Crosswalks,
It's a crosswalk specifically where you come blind to the cars because they're running out as you're entering the crosswalk, and it kind of hides the pedestrian and you can see cars.
Are you good?
Yeah.
April Fool.
Is there any other questions or comments? You can close it there. If you'd like to go back to the regular session.
Okay, No other questions or comments? We'll close that portion of our meeting and go back to our regular meeting. Michelle's already reported. Mike? Chief's getting nervous.
Hello, so as you all know, we're getting ready for cheese days. We're making pretty good headway on that. We're about done painting. We got some yard work to do yet and some touch up, but it's looking pretty good. So we're on schedule with that. We got the tires on the F-150, so we're all good there. And basically, that's all I've got. Unless anybody's got questions.
I had a question about center lines. Are those the flame ones that you'll put down, or are you gonna paint those?
Actually, right now, it's in the paperwork stage, so they're ordered. All the paperwork's in and all that stuff, so as soon as they come in, we'll be installing those ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah, in-house, so,
Okay, thank you.
right.
Any other questions for Mike? Thanks, Mike. Chief?
Hello, everybody. You have your stat sheets in front of you for the last month. Operations are normal, get ready for cheese days. Should have plenty of help from other agencies coming down to help out as always. So appreciate that. I'm looking forward to a good cheese days. Should be nice weather, and so I'm thinking there'll be a lot of people. So we should be in good shape as far as I can see for now.
Any questions for the
I
chief?
do have one question.
Go ahead, Ron.
I just want to confirm that the county took possession of the patrol car.
No, they have not taken possession of the patrol car. We've given them an invoice for the car. And they are going to buy the car. I think what they're doing is trying to figure out which bank the money's coming out of. So
Okay.
it's just a hurry up and wait.
Okay. No indication that they didn't want to move forward.
No, they're gonna buy
Sounds
it.
good. Thank you.
Any other questions for the chief? Thanks, chief. Okay, right now, is there any public comment on agenda items? No public comment? And we'll go to the end of new business, the resolution of 2558-6 step 2022 to 2027. Should I just entertain a motion on these? Or do I have to read them? Read the title. Resolution 255A, resolution adopting a rural city 6-year transportation plan.
I will move that we would adopt a 6-year rural city transportation plan.
I second it.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion?
I just want one clarification on the item that Eric brought up. Would it be us that would contact the county about that, or would it be just individual citizens with the city?
He's talking about the wall, Michelle. I think it says we'd have to contact the state and they would.
Yeah, it's a state highway, so it would be the state. And I know at one time they were talking about resurfacing 505. And so at that time would have been a great time to, get any of our concerns. And they are aware of the wall. Eric was talking more about signage. So I think we could, Mike could probably address the state on the signage at any time with any concerns.
And so, so we want to maybe set time in the future to identify those and make that contact, or
For the signage, Mike can do it any time.
okay. But
Yeah.
do we want to ask something specific about the signage, or is there?
Maybe Mike can talk with Eric after the meeting and
Yeah.
get his,
We must
exact
go over
concern.
everything and go ahead and set it up and figure out what all we think we need.
Yeah.
And just we'll make the list and give a call.
Okay.
Cliff, and they'll pass it on to the powers that be.
And it's not exactly the same subject, but prior, at a point in the past, we talked about doing some our own signage identifying the landmarks, and we had a lady.
Yeah, you're correct. They were talking about Wayfair signs at one point, and then that was like March of the previous year,
Yes.
and then
COVID
COVID kind of
hit.
happened. And I know that Mike Morgan was in that group, Councilwoman Forga, and
Peterson, is her name?
I think Jamie Cummings maybe was part
Lady
of it.
lives up, I think she lives up.
Oh,
at-
okay, Joanna Jones.
Joanne.
Yeah, Joanna Jones, that's
And
it, yeah.
so I know Mike has talked about us reestablishing that group and going forward on that some more.
And that was, I actually, of the council meeting, I was actually a member of the original group, and then we met one time, and then, of course, COVID hit, and I thought it might be a good time to move forward again to do that.
So if you'd like to reach out with Mike Morgan, I can give you his information and try to get that group back
Yeah,
together.
I can contact.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, any more discussion? We need to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 2, ARPA recommendations.
So Gary, Ron, and I did meet, and we talked about some different thoughts for the ARP money. There is some information in your packet. So part of the money could be spent on lost revenue. And so we did, one of the concerns was the lost revenue we've had in the city park. And so Bill did that spreadsheet that's on that light blue sheet. And so basically the lost revenue
It's been
was
significant.
3,254, and another estimate is at 2,450. So the two numbers would be added together. So the group was kind of discussing, you know, the city reimbursing themselves for loss of revenue so that we can continue with park costs, because the park is a losing function of the city. And then the other thought was, we started on the water meter replacement. And so talking with Mike, the council had originally for this year budgeted $40,000 for new water meters. There is an updated sheet on your desk tonight. The number that the company had given us originally, and we paid the first bill, was actually wrong by almost $50 a meter, I believe. So, yeah, so the new number, I mean, it was $207.16 just for the top. The tops were only $172. So $35. But this would be for the entire project to get done, and with all equipment that's needed, and hiring 2 laborers to help Mike and John dig up all the meters and get them in place at 3 days a week for 3 months. So the entire cost of that project would be $95,803. And like I said, the council had already approved $40,000 for this year for the project. So there is a difference of the $55,000. And then that on the bottom is updated equipment or software for the utility billing of $7,500. So if you guys wanted to discuss any of that, we plan on having another meeting sometime in the near future. So, but right now, these are some of the items that we addressed.
Just for clarification, when the monies came, it had stipulations of certain areas that we could spend it on. We could just arbitrarily spend it on. We can't put it in the bank for a rainy day fund. And those criterias were, there's a number of options, but they still were limited, if that makes sense. And but 2 of the items that was there, number 1 was reimbursement for lost revenue. And we were fortunate that we did not have the lost revenue of the regular sales tax and things like that, because a lot of people stayed at home. And so we could not identify that, but we certainly could identify camping fees and things like that. That's the reason why we thought that that was prudent. It's not a real large amount, but it will help the budget. And then the other thing had to do with infrastructure, but just limited type of infrastructure. There was water and sewer were the only two types of infrastructure, wasn't there?
Any type of infrastructure.
And one other thing that we talked about to maybe look at it further is the possibility of seeing how expensive it would be to build some kind of like small, relatively primitive cabins at the park that in the future could later be, and primarily for homeless, but in the future then could be utilized for revenue. And we had some concerns, number one, of how to put it together. Number two is we didn't want to put an X on the fence and say, this is the place you come. And we want to help anybody that really needs help, but we want to be realistic that if it gets out that we have free housing, that, so we would have to have real strong guidelines. So other than just mention that that was one of the things that we were considering, there's far more questions than there's answers to that. On this, it gives us an opportunity on the sewer, the water meter replacement. It gives us an opportunity to take in and complete a project that we were already going to spend over a couple of years anyway. So that was the reason why we thought we would bring that. And I don't know where we go from there. Do we decide whether or not we want to do those two aspects of projects now?
Weren't we gonna meet again and talk about it and then present something to the council?
Well, this is part of the presentation, and for the water meter project, Mike doesn't have funds right now to hire extra help. So he needs an answer fairly quick on that. Or if the council would like to just budget some funds now for him to start getting those guys in place from our current budget, we could do that also.
But we
it's your
could,
decision.
if we decided, if the council decided, and I don't think you're opposed to that, to go just these two items that are.
No, I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah. And because we were somewhat in agreement at the meeting, Gary and I and Michelle and the mayor sat in, but we were relatively positive about certainly the revenue replacement and the water meter, only in the fact that if it were going to, the only reservation I had is if we were going to exceed this amount, then I would want the amount that it exceeded it and that we were short would be the software and hardware part of it rather than the meter. So I would like to have the stipulation that we get all the meters in and set before and make sure we have enough money to do that before we go ahead and purchase the software. That would be the only
That's a good idea,
reservation
Ron,
I had. And
because you're looking at 65,000 for just the meters.
yeah, and
Yeah.
Cover that,
And the additional 9,000 for the two
right?
helpers.
sure. And then we do
And like I
need to
said, the
update that.
council has already budgeted 40,000 for the project, so all we would be looking at would be approximately 34,000 of that 107,000.
Yep.
For that, and then if you agree to the additional cost of upgrading software, it's
Yeah, and I think,
7,500.
yeah, and that's something entirely actually different. And
Actually, Ron, you talked about that before, holding back on the software until we get all the meters.
yeah, and I don't mind approving.
Operation ready,
Yeah.
and then we can go after the,
Yeah, and I don't mind approving the additional $55,000 as long as it has the understanding that if there's overruns, that we would take and the thing we would be short wasn't 50 meters. It would be buying the software. That's all. And, because I think the savings, the real savings is to have the loss of the leakage across the meters rather than whether or not we're going to be able to digital read it or not.
Well, that would increase our income by
Absolutely.
stopping those leaks.
Absolutely. So,
And the readings could come later, like you guys said, for the software. Shelley,
Yes,
what
sir.
do you think? Let's get your view. You're the newest member.
Well, I think you should go ahead and agree to approve the amount to do it.
Just for the meters and hold back
Just-
on the software.
How much money do you have?
There's 40,000 already allocated. toward
we
it.
have,
Yes, but aren't you talking about using the money from the,
Yes.
and how much was
I
that?
did about 125,000.
107,000 and then additional 107,000 next year. And I think that Mike has a comment.
So you have 107,000 for this year, and you already have 40,000 of the cost, right?
Correct.
And the total cost was what, 95 something?
95.
And that was without the 7,500 for the software, am I correct? Which is crazy amount of money for software. I'm over here thinking, I would say that, I mean, you need water meters and need them to do what they need to do, and I would just approve the amount. Be done with it, but
Mike, go
you
ahead.
already have the 40, and so
Right,
you,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Yes, thank you. Just to add that, we have to keep control of our water loss. And when the meters don't, read correctly, we read our wells, and then we take the readings that we get from the meters, and they have to coincide, and the old meters don't read correctly. So that is detriment to our water loss, which is right now, with all these water rights that are working on. That could be a detriment to that too. So to get them to read right and get that all in line would be a great thing, even if we didn't have the software. But the software is a great thing too, and much appreciated just to get the meters. I talked to Ted from Fowler today. He would like to know what you guys want to do. He's got a guy that's going to come down and do a presentation on this stuff for you guys. If you want to do it before a meeting, like 15, 20 minutes or something, he's got a PowerPoint. He can kind of go over the stuff and the software and how everything works and all that. Whenever you guys would like to do that.
So you're looking at $55,000, right? You already have the 40?
Yep.
So that's say roughly a little more than half the money that you have, or right about half the money that you have, all right?
Right.
Michelle, how much is the
It just seems
reimbursement
like a
of
no-brainer.
lost revenue? What's the total on that?
Oh,
Yeah, that's my question too.
I'm just thinking they only have 107 down.
Around 5,700.
Okay, so we got $7,500 for the upgrade and $5,700 for
That's right.
for the replacement, and we have 55, so that's like 68,000, which would leave us around 39. Is that right?
Does that include the extra labor in the 68?
Yes.
Okay.
9,000 for labor.
Yeah, and that would leave us 39 out of
Okay.
the amount that that we were given this year. Yeah, I'm not sure whether it's proper to bring the recommendation to the council to also make a motion that we do that. But if it is, then I would go ahead and make a motion that we would do those three items. We would use the money that we're receiving to pay the 55,000 to bring us $55,800 to approve the total 95,803. We take into consideration 40,000 we already approved. And the $7,500 for the utility upgrade billing and reimbursement to ourselves for the for lost revenue on city parks. That was motion.
I would second that motion.
Well, I have a question.
Okay. A motion's been made and seconded. Now we can have a question. Go ahead. What's your question?
Well, am I out of line having a question now?
No.
Okay.
Oh,
good.
that's
This is a time where you,
No, we
Yeah,
have.
this is, yeah, you make a motion, you second, and then you question, and then we all
I'm in the right
decide.
spot then. Yeah.
Yes.
So here's my question. So my question is, do you need the software? Can you do what you do without it?
Mike,
You can still manually read these particular readers, you still can manually read them, that's kind of another deal.
I think you're talking about different software. Sorry to
No,
interrupt.
I'm just,
She's talking about the $7,500.
yes,
Yes.
so it can be done. It's not as smooth. So that part of it's in-house in the office at City
Right.
Hall.
it
So
says utility.
Our
billing,
software
so
is
that's you.
almost, yeah, our
Okay.
software is almost 10 years old.
I see that.
And so if we're upgrading the rest of the system, this would just flow easier. The software will do so much more than what our current software does. So it would be a huge help to integrate it all at the same time.
And even for our customers, because it has the ability to data log. So if somebody has a leak and they come in and say, no, I couldn't have a leak, we can go out, pull up their meter and run a data log on it, and it'll graph every bit of, every gallon of water that they run through the meter. Right there on the graph, and you can print it out and show them right there.
And also,
We're still talking.
meters, but also what I think like got me was the fact that man hours will be saved over the course of time as well, because you'll be able to drive through town.
But we're talking about two different softwares, right? You're talking about the software on the meters.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's talking about the software in the office for the billing.
Because the amount is for billing software.
Well, that's actually the software, is the vision software for the meters, yeah.
So is
It
it,
isn't, is
are
it?
you using the same, because what I say is, what I see is it says software upgrades for utility billing. Do you use the same software then? It would be like you use it for one purpose and you're using it for another?
It's totally two different things.
Thank you. That's what I
Yes.
thought.
So
Okay.
the software that's purchased for the meters will be able to go into our software at the City Hall, but we're looking to upgrade that software too at the same time.
So that's the cost right here. That's the reading and integration.
Right, the
For-
reading and integration will be for like the laptop and all.
And
that
what
will
he's
read
doing.
From the, what's that?
And what Mike is using it for.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll read from the meters, and then the laptop will then be able to be plugged into our software at City Hall and download all of those reads.
So the amount for that is already included. It's just the amount for the utility billing that's used in the office that is,
An additional 7,500, correct?
thank you.
And the only thing I'm thinking, Shelley, and I appreciate your concern about the cost, because it seems like a lot of money when you, the software.
Yeah.
The only concern that I have is that if we're going to need it in the future, we currently have an option to take the funding that was provided for us
Right.
and divert it to it, rather than have to come up with funding from another source in the future. That's all. That was the only reason why I thought it made sense to at this point in time. If we will ever need it in the future, then we probably should not. But if we're going to need it in the future, then this is the best time. Kind of like taking advantage of the gift that we've received from the federal government to improve the infrastructure. I guess is the right way to say it.
okay, so the motion on the floor has been discussed with the question. Any other questions on the motion? So Ron, your motion will cover the amount without the software for the.
No, it includes the amount of the software.
So
Includes
you
the amount
have
of
two
the software.
software guys.
Yeah, it includes the amount of both software.
Both software.
So the $95,000 here minus the $40,000 that we.
Yes, yeah.
that we've already budgeted. So we included, the only stipulation that I wanted was to ensure that we got all the meters in the ground before we spend money on the software to read the meters.
Okay,
That was the only criteria. And if we could get that done, then fine. But if we run into overruns, then I want the meters to, this monies to be used for the meters, because I think that that's where the majority of the savings
It
is
is.
to be found.
it is.
Okay, so
Okay. So everybody understand that motion now, including me?
So,
Devin, how about you? Your
Question down here.
question?
so that also includes the reimbursement for the park.
yes.
Yes.
So what's the total come to with and without the software upgrades?
About
Anybody?
68,000.
I want to know what it comes to. I don't want to know what about it comes to. I want to.
It's like around $69,200 for everything,
With including the upgrades.
including all the upgrades, yes. So if you took out the reading equipment, and all of that, that would be, that alone is 21,700. Do you see? where
I
have
see it,
seven?
yeah.
Okay. And then the other software for City Hall is 7,500.
So the total amount for all of that is,
69,200.
that includes all, that includes the upgraded software for utility billing.
Yes.
Okay. That's a very long motion.
Sorry.
That's okay. We got it hashed out. We need to vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And I'm sorry, is that with the stipulation that you're waiting to spend the money? That was my other question. Let's hear right now, that you're waiting to holding back that $7,500?
No,
The 21,700.
it's a $25,000
The 21,700.
or whatever it is to read the meters. All I,
And the 21 is not included in the 69?
yes, it is.
It is.
Shelley, what the concern is.
No, I don't, that's not it. I just think that if the total amount is whatever it was, 69,000, that you should just be done with it and pay the money and get on with your life.
Well, yes.
But
we are.
without withholding that extra 21 to see if you got the, I
No,
would just.
We're approving,
move on.
we're approving the 21,000, but we're not going to spend the 21,000 until we can use that software. And we can't use that software
Okay,
until all
that
the
makes
meters are in the
sense.
ground.
See, I hear you saying that you want to withhold until you get everything
No, I
in there
want
to
to
make sure you
withhold
have the
buying
money.
buying the
before you-
software.
What I'm trying to say, Ron, is I was understanding you saying that you wanted to withhold buying the software to make sure you had the money to put the meters in the ground before you bought the software, not before you bought it to use it. Am I making sense to anyone?
Yeah,
I think
get
you
that.
are,
We want
'cause
to
he-
approve it, and we wanted to approve it, yes.
Yeah, because Ron did say that he was concerned about cost overruns with the meters
Right?
being
So,
put in the ground. So that he wanted to make sure all the meters were in the ground before the software was purchased. But everything is approved as long as you don't run into overage.
It's on your shoulders, Mike.
Yeah, it all lies on you.
And it'll all be good.
If the estimate is good, everything will be done with the money that we approved tonight. If the estimate is good. The
Yep.
only concern is that construction estimates are very, very
I'm
hard.
aware.
And that was where my concern was. And I just didn't want to buy software that is already expensive unless we can actually use it for all the meters. That's all. That's all.
And the other thing on this too is that when you read it, we're getting meters from Winlock at $5, just the meter only, not the tops. And we have like 75-ish right now. Mike's thinking they might have another 25. We may even be getting more meters from Winlock. We're just not sure how fast they're going to be doing their meter project because they're going through and putting in a whole different type of meter. So anything that's a master meter, we're able to purchase from them for $5. So that gives us a savings of about $50 for the full meter. So that there might be some more cost savings there. maybe.
Okay. That was good. Motion carried and everything else done. What do we have next, Michelle?
COVID-19 updates, and I don't really have anything on that.
Okay,
Public comments.
any public comments? Input? Anything?
I have something, actually, yes. I have been made aware of, let's see, 2 ideas. One, can a city be designated as a Bigfoot sanctuary city to promote tourism, because it is a big deal, especially with the winters over across the road there. And then also, could we designate the Toledo watershed as, quote, Bigfoot habitat? Because the public is not allowed to go down there, it's off limits. So it would be, designated Bigfoot habitat.
Then everybody would want to go down.
Yeah.
Okay, so next that one. Okay, these were brought to me, so, yes.
I just, do something like that, we need to make sure that that doesn't prohibit us from going down to our maintenance and all that stuff in there. Sometimes we gotta, that kind of treat her there.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't think it would.
Down there, so
Yeah.
as long as that doesn't prohibit any of that.
Yeah, something to think about.
So do you as a council member want to look into that?
I would love to, absolutely. It would be my pleasure. I might even
Thank
have
you.
someone come do a presentation. You never know.
Call my cousin Jimmy. He'll tell you all about it.
Well, and how you actually go about making it a sanctuary and all that. So not just the idea, but the whole process would be great.
Absolutely, I'm on it.
Thank you.
Okay, any more public input? Before we want to close this, moving our. Let's close the regular meeting.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I hear a
Is that
second.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. City council workshop notice today. Agenda district court.
So Mike, if you don't want to stay, it's all about district court. You're welcome to stay.
Well, we might be top of the-
There you go.
So we'll work that.
Watch out for Bigfoot.
I'd like to say thank you
The
guys
in-
for the Peter stuff.
So I promised you guys a meeting as soon as the mayor came back to discuss district court. The last time our city attorney Jim was here, he kind of brought it to the forefront and basically stated, you guys have 3 options. Have your own municipal court, join with another community, or status quo. And I think Jim's biggest concern, as well as ours, was the additional cost for indigent defense. So that's court-appointed attorneys, and how the county went about not notifying us and letting us to be a part of the conversation with them when they were doing the negotiations for indigent defense. So I just, I blasted you guys with a lot of information here. The goldenrod is the information from Jim's office. And then the tealish blue is basically district court saying, hey, what's the deal? What are you guys doing? The purple is the actual contract that the district court was proposing. And then I would just kind of, that gray just kind of shows that they're not increasing the filing fee, which is for infractions and criminal citations. And that's been the same since 2002. The green is just kind of a little bit of an overview on court services that I pulled off of Municipal Research Services, that all of you guys can take a look at any examples and things if you so choose. The white is RCWs, all about, you know, if you're going to be doing your own court and different things. Let's see what other color we have here. The coral color, I went ahead and have Devin, she handles all of our court stuff that we get and does all the police secretary. So I wanted to let you guys know again, you know, police writing tickets is not a money-making deal by any means. So just a simple little infraction where they're speeding, out of that, Toledo would keep $22 of the $139 fine. So the state gets some money, district court gets a little bit of money, but most of it goes to the state for their things. And part of that is the whole computer system that the police department uses and the court system, so that, you know, when he pulls somebody over, he could see this guy's a really, really bad guy, or this guy doesn't really have a whole lot going on. I might be a little bit safer to check with him. And then for a criminal citation for driving while license suspended, Devin kind of showed that there might be a mandatory bail amount of $500. The guy goes to court, the judge is going to fine him $840 plus attorney fees, possible jail costs, this TPC assessment, which I don't know what that is. Criminal TPC.
Criminal traffic penalty assessment.
Okay.
$50 plus 105%, so 250.
And so out of all of that, Toledo, we would have an out-of-pocket cost right off the bat of $455 plus which includes the $65 filing fee, and any attorney costs that we would have to prosecute this case, and our officers' time to appear in court. So this is kind of what happens there. And so we probably lose money on every criminal offense, just so you know, by the time we pay out our attorney fees and officer time and stuff. So then the next page, our option one, establishing our own court. I kind of tried to come up with some pros and cons. Option two, joint court with another entity. And then option three, status quo. This, we've only had about 10 units of court-appointed attorney fees, our average in the last couple of years. So I just kind of went through and wrote what the additional cost would be if we, you know, stayed with 10 units. And then the next page is just some expenditure comparisons from Winlock on what they pay out for court costs. They do have a lot more that goes to their court. They, you know, have more officers, but this is year 21 and 20, what their current year budget was, and last year's budget and how much was spent. And then on the back side of that is 2019 and 2018 of what they spent. And then I just kind of tried to pick out a smaller entity on the stuff from MRSC. They had copies of other entities that have joined court services with somebody. So this is one with Sunnyside and Toppenish, and kind of what it would look like, the potential if you did want to join with somebody else. Right now, the two in Lewis County is just Napavine and Winlock. Is that correct, Jim?
Yeah, they're municipal courts.
Yeah.
Napvine and Winlock are the two closest. Troya, Chehalis as well.
Right, right. So, and then the last page, pink. shows the court-appointed attorney fees that we spent out and how much we received back after a judge had ordered the defendant to pay court-appointed fees. So, and I'm sure Jim probably could add a lot more to this, so I'll let you take it over.
Anybody have any questions? for me this evening?
A lot of paperwork. My, the only question I have is, obviously, the very least we should do is express a concern about not paying until the current contract expires.
Yeah.
Okay, at the very least. The second thing is, do you have a particular recommendation? And we currently, we require people to go into Chehalis, the district court. So for us to have interlocal agreement that was arranged with Chehalis and or Centralia, would that be a possibility of a more equitable type of cost, or would we expect it to be higher than what we certainly have with the county, I guess?
I think that if you, from my personal experience, if you contracted with a different city, your cost would be lower. The attorney's fees would be lower, jail costs would be lower. There would be a possibility of community service or even day reporting, something that's not offered in district court, to eliminate in custody altogether. This is a lot, there is a lot of information here, and I think this is a great starting point. I'm not sure if it's complete information. There's a lot to gather, think about, and I have a couple of questions though. Maybe it's for Devin. On the traffic penalty criminal assessment, the 150, and also the $43 criminal conviction fee, that has asterisks next to it, and down below you say that the jail costs, attorney's fees, TPC and CFT, that's the 102.50 and 43, are reimbursed back to Toledo. If-
I took an old ticket that we used to get, they used to send us this position, like, and I took an old driving officer finish line. So what they were, what the fine was.
What's the judge word?
Sure, it's absolutely worth looking into and asking, because any jail time imposed and any attorney fees imposed, automatically the county's billing the city, and you guys have to pay that on the whatever it is, monthly or quarterly basis. But with the 102.50 and the $43 conviction fee and criminal child penalty assessment, that is not something that should be reimbursed to Toledo, as in you guys should not get charged that up front, and then if they pay, that gets reimbursed back. That is something on the judgment sentence that if the defendant pays, then automatically, the little bits get taken out, and that's where it goes. The reason why that's important is because the 102.50 criminal child penalty assessment and the $43 fee, that is split 68% to the city and 32% to the state treasurer. So if you're getting charged that up front, it's worth asking, is the county keeping that 68% for themselves against what the contract says? That's not their income to the court. They're charging you right away, taking 68% of that, and hey, if someone pays it back, we'll reimburse you. That's probably a lot of money that they owe you right now for all the unpaid.
Wow.
Yeah, that's not, that they should not be doing that. That's worth looking into. Another point though, you're in charge of your own money if you have your own court. Does that make sense though? I mean, it's one of, yeah, it's just like a fine. If someone pays the fine, great. If they don't pay it, they don't pay it. Same thing. The 102.50 is assessed. If they actually pay it, then it's divvied up amongst the many governmental agencies that take it. But if they don't pay it, that's not the city's liability to pay. The chief can speak to this. The one at the top of the page, the 139 infraction breakdown. That's a good general statement. 139 is the lowest that any traffic infraction can be right now. I think actually it might have been going up by $3 because of the other agency fees that are being tacked on. Tickets range anywhere typically from $553 down to the lowest of $139. But the breakdown that you see here is a percentage breakdown. So if the fine amount's 139, or if it's 200, or if it's 400, or if it's 553, that's just proportionately the breakdown. Percentage wise.
We only pay the filing fee if the person tests the ticket, is that correct? Or do we off the 139 says Toledo 4716, but then if there's a filing fee of $25 and then we keep 2216, that filing fee is if the automatically
100% all the time. If an officer writes a ticket and if that ticket is put into sector, which means that now it's in the system and the district court picks up on it through the computer, and now they generate a court file, $25 fee is applied immediately. It doesn't matter if the person never responds to that ticket ever, and they're just a failure to appear. It doesn't matter if they send in the payment, the ticket with payment. It doesn't matter if they contest it. It doesn't matter if they mitigate it. And you should know there is a fourth. Whenever you get a ticket, there's 3 options on that ticket. One box is to send in your ticket with payment. The second option is to mitigate, and the third option is to contest. Mitigation means that you admit that you committed a violation, but you're here for the opportunity to explain, reduce the fine, give you time to pay it. Contest means that I didn't do it. I want to have a hearing on the matter, and then the judge decides you did or you did not. The legislature just passed the 4th option for all tickets now, is check the box that I cannot pay. So if you check the box that I cannot pay and send that back to the court, now the court has to determine whether or not what's the appropriate payment plan for you.
So I just wanted to, I forgot the last part on the back side of the pink one, the last page is the filing fees. And so we have it broke down by, we just did 2019, 20 and 2021. So our filing fees for 2019 were $2,435 is what we paid. That's what we paid to have a judge, to have these guys go to court, all of that, not including court-appointed attorneys or any of our attorney costs. So, but we didn't have to pay a judge. We didn't have to pay a court recorder or any of those other options. It's all included with those filing fees. So I just wanted to point that out when you kind of look at what Winlock paid in 2019 to have a court. I believe it was around $35,000 or $50,000. That didn't include their jail costs or their attorneys, I don't believe either. So we paid $2,400.
So you have on the back here the budget from the law for 2018, 19, 20, 21. 2018, it looks like the law paid $37,769 change to have this. And again, that does not include what their jail costs were for 2018. Their 2018 jail costs were $2,727. That's the information I got today from them. The income to the court in 2018 was $123,014. In 2019, they paid $50,473.29 to run their court. They had jail costs of $2,688, and the income to the court was $71,511.
Of that income to the court, how much actually was kept in Winlock and how much went to the state?
Yeah, I do not know that.
I have a feeling that that's their total income. And as you can see, the breakdown in tickets, the city doesn't keep much.
Yeah, that's information I don't have. And then in 2020, I think it's odd, and then we're halfway through. I know there's opposing views here. It comes down to all about the money on one side. On the other side, it's completely about taxpayer money, but it's also about more than that too. It's about serving the community. It's about having access to justice. It's about having courts and services that are responsive to the city that you are in and that you live in, that you raise your family in, and not outsourcing to someplace else that doesn't have the same connection. And again, that doesn't make up for money in any way, but it is something that should be considered. Another thing that's an option here that, the three options that are presented to you are do nothing, start your own court, search and see if there's any place else, another city that would be worthwhile entering into an agreement with. A fourth option is see if district court would be willing to hold court here on a monthly basis or some other frequency. They historically held district court once a month in Morton, but that has come to an end. It used to be in there. Well, I think it still might be a county commissioner ordinance that they are supposed to hold district court in East Lewis County. I think that's all coming to an end. But that's the whole concept of community access to justice. Toledo is the hub of South Lewis County. And people who are here, they don't have any access to court system here. Even if you get a speeding ticket in the area, you can't come to City Hall and take care of it. You do have to travel to, Chehalis. That might be something to look into, whether or not Lewis County would be willing to hold their court here. You guys have questions? This is a lot of money information and just figures that are provided to you. It's a lot to digest, of course. If you guys are wanting to terminate any contract with district court for court services, it has to be done in the year of the election of the current district court judges. So currently, the two elected judges there are up for re-election again next year. So if you are going to terminate your interlocal agreement with district court, you have to do it by February 1st of 2022, regardless of what the agreement says about 90 days. That's what the statute says you have to do.
So I have a question.
So you have time. Yes.
So just reading this letter and seeing the cost increases starting the January 1. And we have a current contract, right?
Yeah.
So can we not negotiate these cost increases? We just have to take what they say, and that's what we're gonna do, if we choose to enter into an agreement.
Right now, none of the cities have agreed to the new contract for public defense. It's a bit of a hubbub up there in the county. They're all talking about what happened, you drop the ball, whatever. They didn't contact the cities. The cities are absolutely do not have to sign that contract.
Right.
The current contract goes through next year. I would highly expect that the county is going to pressure you to sign on to the current attorney calendar calendar that you see there. I don't know why they wouldn't. I don't know why they would take any of it. This is what it is now. This is what you need to sign.
So you can't negotiate the amount that they want to increase.
No, the way the contract is set up is that you're supposed to be included in negotiations between the county and the various public defenders. But their contract negotiations are done. They've already agreed to what the scale of attorney's fees is going to be going forward.
So they just negotiated whatever fees they were going to negotiate with their public defenders and didn't include cities or have a representation
Right.
for cities that they were going to contract with.
Right,
Is
the
what you're
city should have
saying.
been involved in that talk.
And
Yes.
that's your only
then-
opportunity
but-
then to be included in
Yes,
negotiation.
but now the
Okay.
county and the public defenders have signed the contract
Right.
and they're bound to each other.
Right, no, I get that.
Yeah.
All right,
I would suspect that when the current agreement with district court runs out, the new agreement is probably going to include some kind of recognition of what the attorney scale is going to be. That would only make sense, I would think.
Right.
The amount of attorney fees that you pay is directly related to the amount of criminal citations that are issued. If there is not a lot going on in town, or if there's not a lot going on with the police force, then there's not going to be a lot of citations that are filed in court. And if you look at how many citations or arrests that were made with the district court and compare that to the number of indigent defendants that were appointed counsel, it's about 95%. So everybody that goes, that number is going to increase over the coming years because of just the attorney fees calendar. But also, I mean, as Toledo grows, as South Lewis County grows, the development, will there be more arrests that are coming too? Usually, in the history of government, nothing goes down in costs.
And so you're saying that because now is basically the time with the district court judges being, as you say, up for
So
election,
you-
or what was
Yeah,
your?
so you guys do not have a list report. You
Right.
contract with district court for that service. If you want to terminate that agreement with district court for that service, your only window is in the year of election for February 1st. So that if you don't do it then there will be another 4-year cycle of which you're with district court.
Which then means we have to sign a contract with district court.
It means that you have to sign a contract with district court, or it means that you need to really consider your options.
Right.
And it might be that, district court still is the best option. If Toledo and maybe some other cities are having the same conversation right now, whether or not they really want to stay with district court or not, maybe there is enough interest there from the various cities that maybe they will make a separate public defender attorney scale for the cities, something that's more agreeable to the cities. Don't know the answer to that yet, though.
Do you happen to know, in comparison, what the court-appointed attorneys are paid in Napa Vine or Winlock or Chehalis or Centralia?
Less.
I assume that it was less. Is it less than what we currently pay, or about what we currently pay, or more than what we currently pay?
In Centralia, the average attorney fee is $150. In Centralia, the average court-appointed counsel fee is $150.
So we would assume that the other ones should be comparable.
Right. I think that in Centralia is probably a little bit low. I think Winlock's probably like 160 or 170, but they're all right in there. And of course, it's more if it's just like in the contract here, if it's a domestic violence situation or a DUI, which usually is a little bit more involved, or if it's a foreign language person that you have to have an interpreter for involved. But the average is 250. I think for Lewis County, the lowest is 240. So it's a bit more.
And is it safe for us to assume, I hate the word assume, but that the majority of all the other towns, other than Napa Vine and Winlock, that are small towns, so Chehalis, etc., all the other ones are a part of the
Vader.
same contract that we're in?
Yes.
Vader and Morton and Napa, Mossy Rock.
Vader also contracts for the law enforcement through the county. I believe that their stock that they're not happy with that because of the cost. I don't know whatever option they have though. PL doesn't have a marshal anymore. And I do believe, I don't think they have anything formal with the county, but the county is, making a presence out there for that. Both of those, Vader and PL, both contract with district court for court services as well.
Yeah.
And then there's Morton and Mossy Rock. They have their own law enforcement service, but both Morton and Mossy Rock contract with district court. Morton's having the discussion right now of whether to start their own court. And if they did, there's a high chance that Mossy Rock would take it very seriously to join Morton.
Yeah, they're right close to one another. Why not?
Doesn't Morton already do these services for Mossy Rock?
Morton does provide police services for Mossy Rock, yes.
And then with Vader, so they contract with the county for police services. I think that's the court. I don't think they get charged. Ask that question before they got charged. Any court fees fees or jail costs. I think the sheriff's office is picking
I
on
know
all
the
that.
sheriff's office absorbs a lot of those costs. That's in the contract. Jail, whatnot, you just have to absorb that cost. They were at first doing this. Contracts came under this. Just a quick point, I work in both of those systems. And there's good things about both of them. And when I became cheaper, we kind of looked at going this before. Never really get the money. I'm not opposed to going this before. If money was better for the city. Those things that goes the city's finances and such. Much more easier to do. Other things that district court does have that are. One of the main things that I would say is that if you have that support, the state has some support here or wherever, you're responsible for taking a prisoner who's going to jail, transporting them to the court. So that's how an officer will get this person to the ground. So you're kind of paying for that cost too, or that district court. So you have that there. I don't know if the municipal court they see properties. For municipal court, we would direct tickets to the municipal court also.
And that the filing fees to district court are just subject to negotiation. That's not a law. That's just what they charge.
So in my mind, though, it's all a matter of. I don't know if it's really convenience to this leaders to do it as a court. It's really a convenience for the citizen to do as much as possible. It's never possible. It's changed. I'm not opposed to it. That's what the city wants to do.
Well, I would really like to have the question answered about the criminal traffic penalty assessment and the $43 additional tax. There might be way more money there than you expected if they're keeping that.
We got a big fat check.
Yeah,
That's something I didn't know.
But what other information can we guys bring to you guys to help you, you know? This is a lot of information tonight. And like I wanted to make sure that you all know that you can go on municipal research and ask questions of them. Also, look at how other cities are contracting, kind of shows what other cities are contracting for court services. You can look at some other options. But if there's questions that we can help get that information for you, let us know. We've got some time. So it's nothing that needs to be decided at this meeting or the next meeting. So we do have a little bit of time if you guys have questions you want answered, or in between now and whenever, but we need to do it. We have time, but we need to get this figured out. I don't want to be January 31st of next year and go, oh yeah, what are we gonna do? And yeah, time goes by.
Can we make a point to talk about this and have another meeting, and then maybe we can all dig in and have some questions when you come back, because this is a lot for me to.
I did have one more question, and that had to do with the consolidated municipal court, where say Winlock and Morton and Mossy Rock and Toledo would each have one court established between them, and they would meet at the different locations. Is that a possibility that they would have a shared court, or is that something that's not?
You can do that. Off the top, yes, the court sessions would be, once a month or maybe twice a month, depending on what the volume, but the court would be held here, then it would be held there.
Yeah, how often do they meet in Winlock?
In Woodlawn, it is twice a month. What's that? Yeah, twice a month.
Twice a month is the only time that,
It's like the first and third weeks of the month, always. So sometimes there's 2 weeks that were skipped because of the fifth week. Yeah. But just like district court does now, you can write it into your rules that, court will be held in this location at this time, however much. But if you did that, you would still have, one part-time judge, you would have one part-time clerk, or whoever's going to be the staff. The location itself would have to be figured out. There'd be 2 locations. Perhaps would be this room rented, and then over there would be the Lyle Center and Morton's where they hold court, right now. AOC, Administrative Office of the Courts, they supply the computers and printers and software. All these fees break down. That's what funds AOC to be able to provide these things. The city does have an option to buy their own computers and equipment, et cetera, if they want to, but you don't have to. So if there was 2 court locations, that was one question asked: would Administrative Office of the Court supply the necessary equipment for 2 places? But you can call, I can come up with a name that makes it more of a regional justice center to serve.
and it's something was done kind of like, where we would just retain the services of Chehalis or Centralia. Then the availability of the court to the citizen would be far more regular than, because if we did ourselves or did it with Winlock or something like that, it would be once a month or twice a month. District court now is what, 3 days a week, 5 days a week?
District court's in session 5 days a week.
Yeah.
But they do other things there too. It's not just the misdemeanors, gross misdemeanors.
How about
Shales is once a week.
and Centralia?
Is also once a week, which is now reluctantly seems to be seeping into other days of the week too.
Would some criminals that they'll still go through?
The counties.
Yeah.
Well, if there's any felony arrests, those would be referred, and those would all be Superior Court. That is for the entire county.
Just secure.
District courts and city courts do not do anything with felonies. That's all through Superior Court.
And like DUI is a felony.
DUI is a gross misdemeanor unless you get so many of them, and then it turns into a felony. But your average DUI is city court or district court.
So on a DUI, don't they have to jail and they do this the next morning?
District court has a local court rule that you will not be released from court if you get arrested for DUI until you are seen by a judge. So you could get arrested Friday afternoon, and maybe you won't be seen until Monday morning.
So if we had our own court though, that wasn't until 2 weeks away, we would sit in jail for 2 weeks until we had our court.
No, only thing that's required is that the judge review probable cause and then make a determination of whether it will. In Centralia, it's very common that, I go through them all the next day and set conditions of release.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I wasn't sure.
Going back to one question about, what would my prediction be if you contracted with an entity like Chehalis for district court services? I know your costs will be less, because I know that Chehalis court appointed costs are less than district court, and you have to pay those 100% to get reimbursed. It's just kind of, bonus. And also, I know that jail costs will be less because Chehalis is a city, and jail's reluctant to impose jail time, whereas the county is not reluctant to impose jail time. Another thing, if you were more in control of the court of the local court system, district court, you're not in control. If you had your own court, or if you contracted with another city, or even did the multi-city thing, then you would have an opportunity to shape policy. And some policy could be community service or day reporting. I mean, just not having the jail costs at all, and maybe getting a benefit out of them rather than just incurring the costs. Indigency is a big deal. It's real in today's society, and people do look to do community service if they can to pay off their debt rather than get turned into collections, lose their license, and then, fall into that cycle. So there is opportunity there to perhaps get something out of people who are trying to repay their debt to society versus just, incurring another cost to have someone sit the cell.
So Jim, when we got our prisoners down there to help us a couple of years ago, did we incur those prisoners from district or from other court?
Well, yes, so if you're getting a chain gang,
Yes.
I mean, they're in custody and they're like, he's gotta go there and take control of them and bring them here. They're in custody the entire time.
Right.
And then they're taken back. That's different than true community service. True community service is that you're not in custody at all.
Okay.
You're sentenced to 10 hours of community service. Show up Saturday or Tuesday morning or whatever it is, and they just need to report. So that still takes staff on behalf of the city, whether that's for law enforcement time or whether that's public works time. It's got to be somebody there that sure you do it.
Right.
If it's going to be for the benefit of the city. If you're just saying do community service in general, then they can go out and find their own charity to sign off.
Yeah, we had a community service kid, this was when we went, here last month, and he got in trouble, I think, on the east side, he didn't get in trouble in Toledo. He got in trouble on the east side, but he was from this area and he wanted to do some community service here, and so Mike kind of oversaw that, and he's kind of hoping that maybe he would get trouble because he did a really good job.
Yeah.
That's not true with all the cases. Other community service people we've had, and Mike or whoever has had them do work, and you have to babysit them constantly. So basically, you just kind of weed those out, though, or they end up saying they hurt themselves or something. It gets a little bit crazy with some community service. So getting a good one is kind of hard.
Sometimes,
Yeah. But the jail guys, Mike's been to the classes where, although during COVID, he hasn't been able to go get the inmates, however many he can supervise at once, and fits in the truck and bring them back and supervise the project, whether it's weeding at the park or whatever, which we're hoping to get back to that, but that is something that service.
I'll think about it. I think you just look at it and just get hold of the municipal boards that are out there and say, okay, what's the quote for improvement and get friends and money. You have to figure out. And it really doesn't matter when you want their tribes and other quote system, so.
I think the important thing is to look at as far as comparing the money. If you're gonna reach out to like Winlock, because they're next door, and say, hey, what would it cost? And if they say half, or a system of, you guys have, if Toledo has 20 citations that go to the court and they have, 40, then it would be, maybe 33%, 66%, split of whatever the court costs were. And last time it looked like it was $50,000 or something for the last year for Winlock Court. Anyway, so you take that, you're looking at $25,000. That's what you have in your head. But what are you paying court costs right now for public defender costs? What do they pay? And figure out the difference of what it's going to be in the next 4 years. What do they pay in jail costs for their 131 cases that they've done so far versus Toledo's 31 cases? I think that you need to know how much jail time is needed those, because that's a cost saving as well. So I think that there's probably some more fleshing out of these numbers that might be helpful to see. And I don't know how they will come out. It might come out that don't do anything. You're good where you're at. You're not going to get any better. It's all bad. Could be that, well, there is an opportunity here to do something else.
There's a lot of other ifs in there. I mean, it depends on what type of officers you have. In the past, we had officers that wrote for, if you were looking at them sideways. And so our expenses were quite high because we had a lot of jail costs and court fees. Or you could get a judge that isn't as easy on defendants too. So there's a lot of, I mean, you're gonna see ebbs and flows, I think, either way that you do go.
I don't know how easy, let's say, spitball for a second, or to exit district court and try to have municipal court. I don't know how easy it would be to go back to district court. But sometimes district court can be,
See that?
sticklers on coming back.
Right.
I don't know how that works.
In such a nice way, since he's my brother, I don't have to be as nice. That's what we're dealing with here. It's the personality of these judges. I mean, they shouldn't be down in the weeds figuring out, worrying about this stuff. If there's a service to be done, if there's justice to be dispensed, then do it. That's what it should be. If the city wants to take their own, sovereignty under their command and do it themselves, go for it. I mean, that's what the United States is supposed to be about. If they want to be petty about, well, it didn't work out, works best for us to be with you. I mean, well, that's one of the reasons that we're having this conversation in the first place, is maybe some of the pettiness that takes place at district court and the court costs and other things that go on.
Yeah.
So, and they're both young guys, so they don't really do it well. I find this fascinating. I don't know what the answer is though, but I know that there's a lot of information in what you have. It's like the tip of the iceberg, and I would like to be able to come back again and add more information.
Sounds good to me.
Mhm.
We got a lot to absorb, a lot to investigate and try to come up with a solution.
Well, like that too, I mean, we'll be going into budget season here real soon,
Yeah.
just around the corner. So this is the perfect time to start really taking those numbers, which option you want to go for, see what it can out.
So this is probably terrible, but I'm gonna throw it out there anyway. Maybe it's not professional so when I think about contracting together with another city or town, I'm just gonna throw out there, naughtily, that Winlock probably isn't maybe the one that I would be most interested in. I'm sorry, but I mean, if we're gonna have a conversation, then I don't know if now's the time, but if people are gonna be calling around, I know they're closest, but they got some kind of mess going on over there, and I don't know if you wanna stick your head in the middle of it. So that's maybe not nice or right, or the time to stick it out there, but there it is. So I'm just gonna say it and move on with my life.
But we have other options.
Right,
Contrary
and
to
so,
us,
right,
Also go with them if they want us on board.
I just want to add real quick on that, and with Venlon. So their court is they're their own subdivision, you might say.
okay,
So it's not tied to mayor, council, staff. It's the judge.
okay, all right,
Technically, even if you're in a city, the municipal court's not a department. It is the third branch of government.
Yes.
I mean, there's the
Okay.
executive, the legislative, and the judicial branch. In Winlock, as well as Napavine, the court system is run by the judge, and the judge oversees the staff and the working conditions. Of course, there's a collective bargaining agreement that, the staff is subject to. But as far as the inner workings of the board, Michelle's correct.
not run by the city.
It really has nothing to do with
Well, that's good to know.
City Hall. That's the location of the court.
Hey, I just had to throw it out there because can't help it. It's
And
gotta be that.
the part that it would have something to do with would be the negotiation of what we would be paying for the capability of having their court services.
Okay,
So they would be a part of that part. But as far as how the court is run, that judge would tell the mayor or whoever to go postpone. So. And we can- year 2025 intended is gonna be 4,400. So right now we pay 240, and it's gonna go to 300, and then 400 for seniors, then 420, and then 440 for new. That's on that.
You don't include the jail costs.
No, no, this is just the court. This is what, so we don't have to pay a judge, we don't have to pay anything, you know, for court at all. This is what we pay for courts.
You know, like about a bowl, or kind of that would provide it. Or, you know what I mean by that?
When chaos happens.
Judge, you know, one that, so that's the judge's decision, just that. I mean, there's, I guess my only drawback to this support would be that the station that. So, something to think about.
Any
So
other
if you guys want to get questions together, do a little bit of research yourself if you can. I will get those questions and between Jim and I'm sure we can get those answered for you. When would you like to have a workshop again?
meeting?
Like the first of the next, not the next meeting, but the meeting first of August.
August?
How's your schedule,
What day would that be? The first one?
John?
First Monday of August.
August 2nd. I have you on my calendar.
Okay.
You're always on my calendar.
You're not charging us for that. Watching it on YouTube.
The clock is ticking. He's already got us on the calendar. All right. There we go. That's a good lawyer, my God.
Yeah.
Anticipation. I like that. Anything else? Everybody?
That's fine.
Good.
If any, questions that we can try to get answered, I've heard a couple other things that I should be doing too already in conversations, so, try to do a little bit more research too.
Okay.